everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Stephanie. I'm Stephanie Buckland, your host. I'm so delighted and so excited to be having a conversation with my friend and colleague, Sherry Anshara, today. Welcome, Sherry. Thank you so much for coming.
Yay, and thanks so much for having me here. This is going to be fun.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I have been watching what you've been up to for a few months now, and I absolutely am in love with what you are building. So please share with the world, who are you? What are you up to? And what kind of magic shows up as a result?
Well, and there's practical magic. So, all right, I will give you the labels because we love labels, correct? So I can go back. I was an entrepreneur. I was in the corporate world. I even achieved VP of marketing of a national company without a college degree. Oh no, you can't do that. One time I told my family, this will give you background, that I'd like to learn how to fly a plane. And they said, you can't, you're a girl and you're too old. Doesn't that make sense? A girl and too old. So I bought one. And they said, how, this is, we're getting to why we call what I do now. And so they said, how did you do that? Well, you put so much money down and once a month you get a bill. If you don't pay it, you don't have it. See, my favorite word in any language is practical. And the second word is applications. If it doesn't have a practical application, I don't get it. That's the practicality. And so it's getting out of boxes. The labels, they're not wrong, they're wonderful. But the fact is we become the labels. And then we operate under the action of the labels, which could be wonderful, but it could also be boring and getting us, stuck. So in the medical world, I'm known as a medical intuitive. In the business world, I'm known as an intuitive business coach. But in the real world, Stephanie, because I love humor, is that I am a BS buster, a belief system, or fabulously known as a bullshit buster. So, and humor is the best medicine.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So it sounded like there was a lot of your why is already in there, but if you'd like to go a little deeper, what do you think led you into the work you're doing now?
Well, that is a great question, and it's multi-layered.
Hmm.
Because what am I doing now? Right now, I'll do my why. I have created the Anshara Institute of Accelerated Healing. So this institute is a nonprofit to teach what I've been teaching for 31 years, to add it to the healthcare industry that we all know is having challenges. 47% of healthcare providers will be out of the system next year. These are not my statistics. This is Forbes, this is government. And so we're going to have a shortage. So who's going to take care of us? So the Anshara Institute is to teach people, and I have a class going on now from all walks of life, Stephanie. So this is part of my why. I have law enforcement. I have a couple mothers with children, young children. I have nurses, psychologists, naturopaths, um, entrepreneurs in the business world, corporate. What do all these people have in common? Being human.
Yay!
Yay! And being under, and I have people from the metaphysical community in it. I have Reiki masters in it. It's really to teach consciousness instead of duality, the good and bad, high and low, without judging it. So why did I do this? So I'd have to go back to 3 years old. So all of us have this wonderful natural innate ability. It's called intuition. Intuition means into it at your ion or cellular level. And kids say the most remarkable things. But when you say things, and I'm sure you did too, I did, the family didn't understand it because we were in a box. You could be Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or agnostic, or you could be, like what, Baptist, whatever it could be. And so we have to follow those rules. This is not a judgment of any of this. Hey, they're wonderful. But however, what happens when we have these natural innate abilities when we come in right from the get-go? So I have worked with babies in the womb, and they have told me fabulous stuff. Unbelievable, because the minute the sperm hit the egg, you're in. So this is not pro-life, anti-life. I'm just stating facts of what I've learned
Mhm.
over all these years. And so as a child, I would say things to my mother that would scare the crap out of her.
Aw.
And, it would just like, it was not part of our paradigm. And so and I'm sure that there's many people out there that were listed as the black sheep of the family or whatever. Got it? I see you shaking your head. And so
Mhm.
I earned this fabulous title at 3 years old. Is Sherry, where did you come from? And so I laughingly would say, hope this isn't boring anybody, but my first two siblings that were 11 and 12 years older, they were amazingly compliant. Oh my goodness, they were wonderful. And my other brother, who was 9 years older than me, wasn't so compliant. So when I came along, I didn't get the word compliant. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like compliant. And so I earned the title, Where Did You Come From? And I actually laughingly told my mother once that if my brother Bob and I had been the first two, there wouldn't have been four. So it was a good thing the first two came. That makes sense. And that's called positioning. Positioning. It also has to do with information from a decadal standpoint. A decadal standpoint. It does.
I don't even know that word.
The decades, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, that
Mm-hmm.
there is, from 2010 and then on. So what I noticed with these children is that some of the things that they were raised or brought up in, this is not a judgment, had a decadal influence. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And so my first near-death experience was at 3. It did. I thought, this isn't working for me. And then I've actually had 5. And the one that changed it was in 1991. So I don't help anybody. I learned wordology as your biology. I assist. So I was helping this drunk woman in Connecticut where I'd never been. It was late at night and she was backing her car out and she fell out of her car in front of me on the parking lot and said, could you move my car? And she goes, could you help me? And I said, yes. So I get in the car after a very long day from a meeting in Boston and corporate world and then visiting friends in Connecticut who picked me up. I get in her car and her car had hit the car behind her and I attempted to move it. I hit it again. And all of the stuff in my left computer brain went through like my insurance, what's going to happen, all of this stuff. And the next thing you know, Stephanie, the car is going 0 to 60 and it's heading off in a direction. And I was in Connecticut and we were at a restaurant. It's 11 o'clock at night, never been there. And it was called the Dock and Dine. That doesn't exist anymore. But there were yachts parked. I did not know there were yachts. And the car hit the barrier, the fencing, old pet fencing, launched 40 feet in the air, turned around, went upside down in the Connecticut River. I had a smashed head, broken neck, broken back, smashed head, back, neck, all this stuff, and brain out of place, which we didn't know, and died. It was magnificent, Stephanie. Magnificent. Isn't that funny?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And
So, do you know how long you were not alive? Did they
no,
give you an estimate?
they don't know.
They
And so
don't know.
they don't know, but I met wonderful people. And I actually, because it was Connecticut, kind of the mafia or the East Coast, so I called them the 12 Wise Guys. Isn't that amazing? And I was actually very comforted. And this is where I learned something through this experience, that unconditional love was wonderful, but there had too many conditions in our idea. Like, Stephanie, I'll love you unconditionally if you do this. Got it? So,
Yep.
what? I thought it was unconditional. So the fact is, I got unconditional acceptance, totally unconditional. And I said, well, good, I'm dead. I'm glad I'm out of here. I'm going. And they said, oh, now actually you made a contract. I go, I never made a contract, which turned out to be the con of the tracks. And I said, no, thank you. And they said, well, you were going to go back. And I said, no, I don't think so. No, no, I'm done. This is good. I'm finished. And they said, no, you are going to go back. but you're not going to heal people. You're going to teach them how to heal themselves.
Huh.
I went, what? And the next thing you know, I'm floating up, and I can't swim, even though I've had homes with pools. I can't swim. I don't even like to swim. You know, like to paddle around, but I'm not a swimmer. It's not me. Fly an airplane, yes. Swim, no. I don't get it, but that's just how it is. So the humor of it. And so as they pulled me out, then that began, and I don't go on all the details, but I was laying in the hospital, and it didn't sound very good. It just didn't sound very good of what my life was going to be like. And I thought, this isn't, oh, I don't think this is working for me. And I'm laying there and I thought, well, my brain can't be that smart. It's all screwed up. And we didn't know at the time it was out of place. And then this
Hmm.
is funny. 2 words came to me: cellular memory. And I coined those terms in 1991, cellular memory and cellular memorizations. And as I began to learn, memorization is the programming without judging it.
Mhm.
Programming are the limited belief systems. Programming was the labels, that you became the label instead of the person. Now, a label is okay as an identifier, but it's not okay to be the person. Make sense?
Mhm.
And so that changed my life. And with 2 more near-death experiences, and that's why I do what I do. So according to my MRIs or CT scans, I should be dead. But here I am working and doing all this and creating the Anshara Institute to teach these tools, because I would like them to be the living legacy. So I am grateful for all those experiences, because I call them my near life experiences.
Hmm.
So I just required some smacks on the head. I guess that was it. You know, I call that the boo-da. I got it. I got it.
I actually had a couple of those myself. I completely understand.
So I've been going, okay. They were like my intermissions. It's not that I'm not serious about them, because I take what I do. I take what I do seriously, but I don't take myself so seriously. Does that make sense? By a
Yeah,
label of being called this or that or whatever. I
right.
just prefer to be called, and actually that's where I came back with the name Anshara after 1991. And it's actually an ancient Sumerian name that means when you open your heart, transformation begins. And that's where Anshara came from.
That's beautiful.
But I didn't know it. One of
So,
my friends looked it up.
ah, that is beautiful. So we were discussing before we hit the record button about talking about why we get stuck. And the line you said after, you said, and can stuckness be an opportunity? And I thought, okay, this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I've never experienced stuckness as an opportunity. So please, let's get into that.
Yes, yes, yes. So what happens is we can kind of get stuck in our belief system. So first I'll ask, what's the first letter of the word belief?
B.
First letter of the word system.
S.
Put together.
BS.
Yes. So it's not right or wrong or good or bad. So how about if someone is told, this is not a judgment, that you have to do it a certain way, and that you can only do it a certain way. And if you go out of that certain way, there's something wrong with you.
Mm.
So a lot of times, and so I don't work in the subconscious, I work in the unconscious with someone. And that could be the continuum, which we consider past lives. But it's so
Mhm.
it's breaking all those patterns of stuckness. So what is this? This is a figure 8, infinity, correct?
Mhm. Mhm.
BS, BS, BS. Do it over and over. This is not a judgment, but energy really flows in a spiral. But when we do this, I identify this stuckness as, oops, I did it again, Brittany. Oops, I did it again. And so what happens, we get programmed through this left computer brain. And the left computer brain goes to the right male side, non-gender. Recreate, recreate. So I call that, I don't know if you remember Elizabeth Taylor?
Yes.
Not judging that woman. I loved her as an actress. She was beautiful, and probably shouldn't use her name, but she married the same guy 8 times. And her 4 best friends were gay. They were wonderful. but they were the same profile. So when we get stuck, we could get stuck in a profile of maybe fixing someone else. And
Mm,
then the profile becomes the behavior, and then we get into that role because we then get expectations. We are
hmm.
expected to act that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so stuckness is really that dualistic or duality of oops, I did again. And many people that have come said, why do I keep doing the same thing? Because in the unconscious, so this is how I talk. So your body's like a house, or your house is your house. So you have different rooms, those are different dimensions, like your kitchen or your bedroom or your living room or family room or whatever it is. They're different dimensions. And so the like the garage or the closets or the basement,
Hmm.
unconsciously, they have to be cleaned out. And it
Hmm.
bugs you and it bugs you. That's the subconscious. But now
Hmm.
the unconscious, what is the foundation of that land? What is our foundation that we don't have the facts about, that are completely unconscious? Because I'm sure that you've encountered people say, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I keep doing this. It's
Hmm.
it's in the unconscious.
That's interesting. I have a pattern of chewing on my skin around my nails. I do this when I'm not present. I do it when I'm not paying attention, when I'm nervous and nervous about something coming up, a meeting, a workshop, something. This is my nervous habit that I do unconsciously. I don't, when I'm paying attention, I don't do it.
Exactly. And so it could be the idea of something's under your skin. We're talking about the unconscious. Or it also could be your body is not reacting. React is act one, scene two. Oops, I did it again. But your
Hmm.
body could be responding to you to get your attention in that action, acting from the ion or cellular level to get you to pay attention to yourself.
Mm,
And so it's
interesting.
going. And so if you look at what your fingers do, the dexterity, what your fingers represent. And which fingers, it could be this one, the finger pointing, the first finger, like your finger pointing at yourself. Stephanie, pay attention. But it's your body. So one of the things I discovered over the years, in 91, when I coined cellular memory, I also coined cellular memorization. And memorization is the programming. This is not a judgment, but the programming are the labels of this is who you're supposed to be. So
Hmm.
in my case, I never fit in my family because it would cause a fit. Got it?
Yep.
So I had to learn or recognize that sometimes it was just better don't say anything.
Keep your
How
mouth shut. Yeah, I
your
learned
mouth
that
shut.
too.
And so as a child, I would get sore throats. I would get bronchitis. They thought maybe it was asthma. It's because I couldn't speak my truth. I would hold my breath and then I couldn't breathe. And then I would get diagnosed as asthma or bronchitis. My throat would swell up because I couldn't speak my truth.
Hmm. Wow. So how does stuckness become an opportunity?
Yes. My first tool I teach is NEO, non-emotional observer. Emotions are the core of every illness I've discovered over all these years. Emotions are the core of every illness. And I'm certainly not making light of it, even though I like to make it, the practical side. So anxiety is unrealistic expectations. Depression is deepest disappointment. PTSD is re-traumatizing something. And it's all going through the left computer brain, and then the body has to go along with it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so we get stuck in those labels that this is our role, this is our behavior, and this is how we're supposed to do this. So my first tool is NEO, Matrix.
Okay.
Remember, I wrote a
Hmm.
book, Getting Out of the Matrix. So it's called non-emotional observer. So when I have a reaction, act one, scene two, act whatever, I step back as Neo and I observe. And who do I observe first is me.
Mm-hmm.
How am I participating? Even if it's just with me, or if I react to somebody, that's a reaction, act one, scene two. So now I rather be quiet and respond. And sometimes responding to the self is not say anything, but to listen. So now the second tool is NEL, non-emotional listening. So we're taught to hear ourselves through the left computer brain area, but we're not taught to listen. So when we listen, guess what? The body will talk and tell you what's going on.
Oh, yes. I tell people all the time, your body has tremendous amounts of intelligence.
Yes,
It's just that we don't know how to listen.
and that's what I teach. First, Neo, you got to stand back and say, okay, what is going on here? So if you look at the words that start in the word con job, control, the confirmation, this is not judging anything. It's just looking at taking words apart. Conflict. What is it that we're inflicting ourselves with the con? And so when we become Neo and we just kind of step back or stand there and going, how am I choosing to participate in this? Or how am I choosing to participate with myself? Why am I in this stuckness? So now stuckness can be the opportunity to get to the answer.
Mm.
Because you can't change the what till you get to the why, which is the fork in the road. And I laughingly say, the fork in the road is you can continue to fork yourself, or you can make a new fork or a new path without being judgmental. Again, humor
Yeah.
is medicine, because
But it's the truth.
it's about resonance. So
Yeah.
frequency and vibration are byproducts. That's all they are. It's the resonance that makes the difference. If we resonate with fear, then we send out the bands, or whatever you want to call it, the string theory in quantum physics, or bands or whatever, and
Mhm.
fear is on them. And so we will attract an experience and we go, oops, I did it again. So stuckness can be one of our greatest opportunities in the moment. Where am I stuck? At what age or stage? Why am I stuck in that fork in the road? And why I don't have to do it anymore.
Hmm. And that's the aha moment.
Aha, Sherry Anshara method. Aha.
I love it. I love it. So the other thing that you mentioned before we hit the record button was wordology is our biology, which I love all these little taglines that you've got. That language matters. I've been expressing this for more than 10 years, that
Yes,
our words are like spells. That's why we call it spelling.
yes,
And
absolutely.
that we manifest our experiences by our words and what we put out in the universe. So let's get into that.
Well,
How do we keep control of that?
we let go of control, the con of the
Ah,
troll.
because it's a con.
And we get in charge. In charge is the photon, the snap, the light. That's what the light is. It's the photon. It's at that cellular level. So I love that you said the spelling. We get in a spell. So if we look at a lot of the words, that we get so entrapped in the words that become the labels of us,
Mhm.
that like I love being a medical intuitive. I love being an intuitive business coach. I love being a BS buster. I love, the humorist part of me. I love the writer in me. But there are parts of me that, that came up. I'm going, gosh, why am I doing this? So in language, so here's an example. I worked with a gal in Europe. I did not speak her language. It wasn't like Spanish or French. You could kind of figure it out. It was a Slavic language, which I have, no reference to whatsoever. But she had an interpreter, and we got the same results. So what I discovered is the idea of healing. And healing is addressing the issues in the tissues, the cells, the particles, the molecules, the subatomic level, is that healing isn't a language, it is a state of being.
Mm.
And words can be very powerful but they can also take our power away.
Mhm.
So in looking at, so I created Sherryisms because of wordology. And one of my favorite Sherryisms in wordology is what I say makes my day. But what I say can make or break somebody else's day.
Hmm.
So it is the language of that, how we, connect to each other. And sometimes, and I teach in wordology that perceptions, no facts, perceptions are the reception and deception of our conceptions.
Oh, wow.
But perspectives are the facts. So when we stick to the facts, then the language begins to make more sense.
Hmm.
So if we say in wordology, well, my family has it, so I'm going to get it, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, yes.
And so then the left computer brain that goes to the right male side, manifest, manufacture, manipulate, man. And
Uh-huh.
then we recreate. And then people say, oops, I did again. Or why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep attracting the same thing? Because of the resonance inside of us that sends out a frequency and vibration. So I actually teach Stephanie that we communicate with each other about 98% non-verbally,
Hmm.
and people pick it up. So if someone is running, I'm a victim program in wordology, then they attract victimizers in all different ways.
Hmm. Yep. Wow. So let's get a little bit more clear about cellular memory versus cellular memorization. And how do you know the difference? So
Great
if
question.
you're in this process of healing yourself and you've got that aha, the why, you get it. So now what?
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at the idea of cellular memory, the minute the sperm hits the egg, you're in completely conscious. Now, I'm not doing pro-life or anti, I'm just talking about the facts. The
Mhm.
minute the sperm hits the egg, you are a fully conscious being. You really are. So your nose knows to be a nose cell, or your toe knows to be a toe cell, or we have a fingernail at the end of the nose. Now, I'm not talking about people that come in with their idea of karma or they have to redo something because that's a belief system. This is not a judgment. So the minute the sperm hits the egg, you're in and you know what to do, correct? However, the memorization you can pick up with your parents. Or after you're born, the memorization that assigns you a label of what it
Right.
is. So here's an
Mhm.
example of cellular memory and memorization. I worked with a client that had always achieved, always was an achiever, always proving. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no right or wrong. Always doing this, always doing that, but could never get approval. Could never get approval.
Hmm.
And her parents were very young when they, got impregnated, very young. And they both said, we don't want a baby, we don't want to be pregnant, and we don't want to do this. But they were forced into getting married
Hmm.
because that was the sign of the times. Got it?
Yep.
And so this is many years later, like 40 years later. So she got to the core of all of the emotionality and where those emotional molecules affected, effected, and infected her health. Not
Mhm.
just genetically, but we got to the core that she was never wanted. So she could never accept love of
Wow.
any kind, and was actually cast as a loner. And that memorization started in the womb.
Mhm.
Isn't that
Mhm.
something? And we're not
That's,
young.
yeah.
They were young. It was part of the contract. So one of the things that I assist people in defining the difference between the memorization and the memory. So the memory is
Mm.
pure. It knows what to do. That's why when I'm assisting someone, can I show you an example?
Oh, yes.
So these were taken with 12-year-old technology. These are blood cells of a client that her doctor took. this is 12 years ago. I had no idea, Stephanie, he was taking these, none. And
Uh-huh.
what I discovered is that the meds and the supplements were counterindicated to her, to themselves. But I told her, I
Okay.
can't tell you to stop anything or not stop. It's really up to you. So we did this, and 3 months later, I actually ended up being published in a medical journal. These were her cells 3 months later.
Oh, wow.
They were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, he came to me, and that's why I got these pictures, and he brought them to me and he said, how did you do this? I said, I didn't do it. I just showed her how to do it. And so that's what happened. So here, for example, I just happen to have these here. Here's a gal. This is diabetes and gangrene. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. I can, yeah.
And so her sister is very wealthy now, but she left home with nothing at 15. And I mean, really worked. It isn't like they gave it to her, but she
Mm-hmm.
sort of stayed in the abuse. And this is out of her sister brought her out of the hospital to me. And this was 4 hours later in a class. And she was a hairdresser. What would happen if you cut off her leg?
Ah, well, other than standing in a prosthesis the rest of her life, probably not work.
And so here's a gal, I'll just show you her neck. That's cancer.
Okay. Okay.
See
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
And this was 4 days later.
Oh,
See that
wow.
neck?
Mm-hmm.
And so here's another gal, and she sent these, she did this herself. And this is all emotional, nothing physical, but they couldn't find anything wrong with her. And this is what she looks like.
Hmm.
And this is all emotional. This was, there wasn't anything physically. So emotional is physical, and physical is emotional. And so when you get to the core, so the cancer is the memorization, the diabetes is the memorization, all
Hmm.
of that. But so now we have to get to the core of why we have it.
Right.
Is it
Right.
something? So memorization are all the emotional hits and attachments. And cellular memory is the pure, clear perfection of you, and
Yes.
however your form is.
Mhm.
And what's a perfect form? We can go to the media, we could go marketing. So I look at marketing. I remember like way back when Twiggy came in. Twiggy was like 2 pounds, right?
Mhm.
But if you look at pictures before Twiggy, like Marilyn Monroe or Diana Dor, I'm going back to, I mean, they were voluptuous and whatever,
Yeah.
and then Twiggy came along and she was like, whatever. And then this, because I study history. And then in the 70s, it came along, when they had hair under their arms, they weren't wearing Our Lady clothes or whatever, the hippies, and that was considered beautiful. So beautiful is only what we're told. Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. The media tells us what's beautiful, and that changes over the decades, doesn't it?
Exactly. And then we get in those boxes and labels of
Hmm.
whatever that is supposed to be. And it
Yeah.
makes no sense. And
Wow.
now, and so it's coming then from someone's perception instead of perspective of acceptance.
Interesting. Interesting. I remember for some reason remembering this experience of being a young child and always having the experience of other people telling my parents that we were beautiful. Telling my parents, the one that came to me is she's easy on the eyes. I got that a lot as a kid and growing up, very pretty, very beautiful, blah, 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 right? And so that label stuck with me for a long, 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 long time. There have been incidences where I do not feel beautiful. I feel ugly. I feel unattractive. And that's when I'm not at my best, when I'm not feeling well, if I've got pain, if I've got emotional stuff going on, that's when I don't feel my best and I don't feel beautiful. And so I won't show up as the beautiful light worker that I am. I show up in a lower vibration. And what I show is not my true self.
And
It's
that's the
myself being affected by that memorization, right?
You're affected, effected, and infected. So here, this is not a judgment in any way. So there is a difference between emotions and feeling. Feeling is the truth. Emotion is the left computer brain. And the left computer brain loves to go to the boxes of those labels.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we're supposed to fit into the box of how you're supposed to be, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
so when we don't stand for, and there's a difference between true and truth. Your truth might be different than my truth. That's fabulous. However, when we're in true, if your true doesn't agree with my true or the label, then there's conflict. Then there's the con job. Then there's the converse at the ion level of going against somebody instead of a connectedness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like to be called the BS buster. I'm not telling anybody there's wrong or showing them. Like, what does it mean to you, not to me, when you are in your truth? And the fact is, sometimes we feel like a nut and sometimes we don't. It's okay. But we don't give ourselves permission to have a day or a moment. We would just like to just be, not have to do anything, say anything, or whatever. So can we be the optimal victim and say, oh yes, my life is the optimum, but I'm the best victim in the whole world. Where's my Academy Award?
Yeah.
It's, it's just, and then it's looking at the profiles, what are the profiles that we get stuck in that languaging? And then, we have to be in that. And breaking those belief systems, you just feel free. It doesn't mean you're wronging anybody. You're just not buying into that emotionality. So
Yeah.
emotions are the core of every illness. And that's what I've discovered over the years.
I agree. I'm right now listening to The Body Keeps the Score, the book. And I'll actually put the title and the buy in the description at for this video, but I'm learning about this concept of how our bodies hold things, how our bodies hold the memory of past experience trauma. And so it's totally in alignment with what I'm thinking about lately is what is going on with my body? Why am I holding so much pain? And why? What is the why? What is the why? And I want to know the true why, not the neurological blah blah blah, all the doctor's reasons why. I
Yes.
would love to get to the real why because it's something that affects my every single day.
It
It
affects,
affects
affects, and infects.
every single day.
Mhm.
So how do I get out of it? Is that's been my goal over the last several years. How do I get out of this pain? Because it's constant.
And that's what I
Yes.
teach. Actually, here's a book I wrote. It's called The Intelligence Code. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
And actually it was written 6 years ago. I can't take credit for it. I can't. It was written by 14 of my clients. There's
Huh.
millionaires in here, there's doctors, naturopaths, chiropractic, business people, and it's online on, and here's one that they wrote, it's quantum relationships and quantum sex. He's 73 years old this year. This was written 6 years ago. Do the numbers. And they have a wonderful relationship. My naturopath, she has raised her children on this. Here's one called Transformational Bridge to Consciousness. This was written by a chiropractor. Why did all of, and actually I just asked to interview all of them. They wrote their own, this is under my old branding, Quantum Pathic. It's Sherry Anshara now. But anyway, why did they write this? When I asked them, could I just interview them? And they didn't even know each other. A couple did, but mostly they didn't. And they said, hey, look, I'll write a chapter. I go, you're kidding. And that's how it got. So it's how they took the tools and applied it to their lives,
Beautiful.
personally and professionally, because the
Yeah,
personal and professional is the same. You can't separate it.
I agree.
I mean, in
Absolutely.
this one about, I love what they wrote here, ways to create a quantum relationship. And one of the things they said is wordology is your biology. And one it said about quantum sex, it's the best. but it's making the connection of what it is that we're doing.
Awesome. So you mentioned your two tools. You said you have three. So the first one is the non-emotional observer, NEO. Second is the non-emotional listening. What's your third one?
It's called it's called NI, natural intelligence, which is your cellular memory. And so what I'm doing now is through the AnsharaInstitute.org, AnsharaInstitute.org. We're a nonprofit. And so in this, we are in the first class. And by the way, our second class is all online, except toward the end, we do in person. It's online. It starts September 9th. And I highly encourage people that would like to learn these tools and apply it to your profession, whether it's in healthcare or business or anything, because we have them from all walks of life right now. And we're getting rave reviews. So we put a lot of effort. It's all online except for one weekend or two that we do it, after the class is done. It's September 9th. And it's Anshara Institute. We are a nonprofit. So we always are looking for support as well as students to make a difference in healthcare from the inside out. From the inside out.
Beautiful.
Because
Beautiful.
it's just practical tools. And that's the application. Without practicality, what does it mean?
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about how we get unstuck or how stuckness can be an opportunity?
Well, just if you have been diagnosed with something, to discover what the core is. And I do see personal clients either over the phone or on Zoom or in person. So by the way, if you want to go to my website, sherryanshara.com, you can download my free ebook called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes.
Nice.
And
I will share that link.
It's only 17 pages. And I also write an original article, 52 of them a year for my newsletter. So if you sign up for my newsletter at sherryanshara.com, please put that you accept them. If it goes into spam, then Keep yells at me. It used to be, So you have to make sure that you accept it. But I love writing and I love language and I love wordology. So people will really connect to their own self. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's where healing must take place, and it's addressing the issues and the tissues. So if you look up sherryanshara.com or the AnsharaInstitute.org, we are looking for our next wave of students. It will change their lives and they can apply it to their family, personal and professional. It's the same. And I'm
Beautiful.
delighted that the one gal that she's doing this and she has two small children and it's making a difference in how
Oh,
she's
that's
teaching them.
great. Yeah.
Because they're the new
They're going to be
generation.
more, yes, so they're going to have a fabulous life because they have this intelligence. That's beautiful.
Yes, that's why
Love
I'm
it.
so excited
I
because
love
this
it.
is why I'm doing it. Because we have to change the future here. And all
Yeah.
of us are paradigm shifters, all of us.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, my final question for you, Sherry, is do you have any inspiration for our listeners, our video watchers?
Yes. Trust your intuition. Trust your heart. Because when your heart and your solar plexus, that perfect heart and the perfect child within are together, I call that your feeling center. And when you trust your intuition, you will always be correct. Let go of right or wrong. Is it correct for you or not? Without judgment.
Mm,
How's that?
beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, and we've already shared how to get in touch with you. I will also share those links in the description. So if you're wanting the link, it's going to be down there. Okay.
And I can give them my phone number too. It's
Sure,
480.
if you'd like.
It's
Hmm.
480-609-0874. And remember, I'm
Perfect.
in Arizona on Pacific Standard Time. So anytime after 9 o'clock on Eastern on Pacific Standard Time, or Mountain when it changes. But happy
Right.
to talk with you. And I do offer a free 10-minute session on my website, sherryanshara.com. And you know what? That's why the book says, getting your answers in 10 minutes.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sherry. This has been so much fun.
Oh, can I share one more thing?
Oh, you sure can.
If you go to Roku, I have a medical intuitive channel on Roku. So you can watch it's called on Roku and it's free, medical intuitive channel. And I do have an old podcast out there. I haven't done anything, and it's called Quantum Truth with Sherry Anshara. So I'd love
Quantum
to share
truth.
information, and I have wonderful books. And last year I wrote my last book, and I'm working on a couple more. And it's called Busting Out of the Matrix, Be Free. And it talks about what DNA is and what it isn't. So they got really great reviews on Amazon.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, we'll share those links as well. That is
Yay!
fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Keep doing what you're doing.
I will, most definitely.
Because it comes from your beingness.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.